Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Unbound. I am Beth Curry. We're back to the Monday visits now, back to Mom's story. Today's chapter is called Warning Signs, and it's about those trips we took with Mom in early 2018, Orlando, and then we went on a cruise out of New York City to the Bahamas. At the time, we laughed off all the chaos as just Mom being Mom. Looking back now, though, every incident was kind of a warning flare that we didn't recognize. So let's get started. Warning signs. Sometimes looking back feels like watching a movie where you already know the ending. Early 2018, 2 trips, 2 months apart, each one scattered with moments we laughed off at the time, but now recognize as the first real warning flares. February found us in Orlando, Mom joining our trip with all her characteristic enthusiasm. The amusement actually started at Pearson Airport in Toronto. Mom, dressed all fresh in linen and light-colored pants, ready for Florida, accidentally sat on a blueberry that had fallen off the muffin she ate in the car. She took her bag of clothes with her pajamas and her other outfits into the washroom to change and left it there. She didn't even realize it until we were in Orlando, and she never saw those clothes again. It didn't matter to her. The trip went on. She was still Mom being Mom, making friends with every server, charming strangers by the pool, regaling me with stories while hunky waiters kept the drinks flowing during our poolside girl talk. But then there were other moments. The ATM incident, and it wasn't the first, became an instant family legend. Mom, in her determined way, somehow managed to thoroughly confuse not just herself, but the entire machine. "I think I broke it," she announced with a mixture of pride and bewilderment that only she could pull off. Then there was the great medication mystery. Mom burst out of the bathroom in a panic, convinced housekeeping had stolen her entire bag of medications. The ensuing drama involved multiple calls to the front desk, a thorough room search, and finally, anticlimactically, the discovery of the bag exactly where she had put it in the closet. "Oh," she said simply, as if the previous hour of chaos hadn't happened. "Well, that's good then." My son still loves telling the airport story. Picture this: a distinguished gentleman from the UK parading through the terminal, Mum's purse held high above his head like a trophy, calling out in his proper British accent, "Has anyone lost a handbag?" Meanwhile, Mum was thoroughly engaged in giving an unfortunate gate agent a piece of her mind about something entirely unrelated, completely oblivious to her missing purse. She laughs and says to us, "Imagine someone leaving their purse behind. Oh, that's my purse." Just a month later, we took Mom on her first cruise from New York to the Bahamas. More adventures, more stories, more moments that seemed funny at the time, but now carry a different weight in memory. She did what she'd always done, made friends everywhere she went, turning strangers on flights into lifelong connections, or at least flight-long connections. The Atlantis and Nassau incident perfectly captured Mom's unique combination of innocence and accidental troublemaking. While the rest of us carefully observed ropes and signs, Mom had her own agenda. "I wanted to see the turtles," she says today, as if that simple desire trumped all security protocols. She wandered into a restricted area with the breezy confidence of someone who'd spent decades charming her way through life. We, meanwhile, got treated to a stern lecture from an unamused security guard when we tried to retrieve her. Mom emerged from her unauthorized turtle viewing expedition wearing that familiar expression, part mischief, part genuine confusion about what all the fuss was about. The same look she'd worn at the airport, at the ATM, and during the missing medication saga. Looking back now, these 2 trips read like a catalog of early warning signs, all disguised as classic Mom adventures. Each incident on its own seemed like just another Mom being Mom story to add to our family anthology. After all, this was the woman who once got a police escort home because Dad didn't answer his phone. Dramatic situations were kind of her specialty. But strung together now, these moments form a different pattern, the scattered breadcrumbs of what was coming, hidden in plain sight among the laughter and poolside drinks and turtle-seeking missions. We were still telling these stories as comedies, not yet realizing they were the opening chapters of a different kind of tale. The cruise and Orlando trips blend together in her mind now. Sometimes she remembers the hunky pool waiters, laughing about how they kept bringing us drinks. They were very handsome, she'll say, that spark of her old humor shining through. But she can't quite place the pool. Which trip? Which year? Did I really break the money machine? She asks when I mention the ATM story, more amused than embarrassed. That sounds like something I would do. Then after a pause, was Dave with us? The missing medication story makes her furrow her brow. I wouldn't do that, she insists. I'm always very careful with my pills. Even as she says this, she's not entirely sure where her current medications are, glancing around the common room at Willow Grove with mild concern. The British gentleman with her purse gets a laugh, though she's not sure if she actually remembers it or just enjoys hearing us tell it. I made friends on that airplane, she says instead, confident about this detail, even if she can't recall where the plane was going. Making friends has always been her superpower. That part of her stays constant, even as other memories slip away. Did Jennifer come too? She asks. No, wait. Was this when we went with Brian and crew? The cast of characters shifts in her telling, the timeline accordion playing between past and present, but the emotional core of these memories remains. The joy of family time, the adventure of travel, the pleasure of meeting new people. We had fun though, didn't we? She says, and in this, she's absolutely right. Even if she can't quite remember where or when or who was there, she remembers that it was good, that we were together, and that there were turtles worth breaking rules to see. Remember our trip to New Jersey? I ask Mom during one of our visits. Her face brightens. We all piled into the SUV, she says, piecing together the memory. You and Brian in front and crew was in his car seat. Dave and I sat in the back with him. The details of when exactly this happened escape her now. It was 2011, Wildwood, New Jersey, but the feeling of that journey remains vivid. 11 hours on one of summer's hottest days, the air conditioning working overtime, crew alternating between naps and entertainment, Mom coming up with her signature, "That's what she said," comments that would make us all groan and laugh. She talks about the Airbnb near the piers, the water parks, the rides on the pier. Some details she adds didn't actually happen, but the essence of the memory, the family togetherness, laughter, summer heat, stays true. What she remembers correctly with a clarity that surprises me is that this was our last big family trip with Dad. We did smaller trips after, she says, then pauses, uncertainty crossing her face. Didn't we? Yes, Mom. You and Dad did some short trips together. You went to Pennsylvania with some friends, and out east to see your friend Sharon. But something about that New Jersey vacation stands apart in her memory, perhaps because it was the last time our whole family shared those long car hours, those water park screams, boardwalk music from the 60s, those evening walks on the pier, the last time we all piled into our vehicle, heading towards summer adventures together. The mind often holds tight to last moments, even when dementia begins to blur other memories. Research shows that emotionally significant events, particularly those marking endings, tend to embed themselves more deeply in the long-term memory. This Wildwood trip stands out in Mom's memory perhaps because it represents the last chapter of something precious, the 5 of us on vacation together. The extended time together in the SUV, those 11 hours of shared space and experience, created what neuropsychologists call a memory consolidation opportunity. The combination of prolonged togetherness, physical closeness, and novel experiences helps cement memories more firmly. And to this, the emotional significance of it being our last family trip with Dad, so many years before losing him, not even considering that might ever happen. And it makes sense why these memories remain when others have faded. Mom might not remember the exact year or some of the specific details, but she also holds on to the emotional truth of that vacation. The feeling of having her family close, the sound of 5-year-old Crew's laughter, the comfort of sharing the back seat with Dad. These emotional memories activate different neural pathways than factual memories, which is why she can still access the feelings and general experiences, even as the precise details slip away. It also represents a time before any significant decline, both hers and Dad's. A time when they were still just Mom and Dad, not patients or caregivers, not people struggling with health issues or memory loss. In her current reality, where she often searches for Dad and grapples with confusion, the memory offers a clear picture of family wholeness. Cairo, the Willow Grove cat, saunters over, catching Mom's attention. Her expression changes, clouds gathering. "Where's my cat?" she demands, an edge of accusation in her voice. "We have your cat, Mom." The history of our family can be traced through the pets we've loved, each one a marker in time, a chapter in our story. Dad's heart was especially soft for cats. His last act of love was finding Angel at the rescue just 12 weeks before he died. And then, while his own cancer was stealing him away, while he was caring for both Mom and Jake after her stroke, he still had room in his heart for one more rescue, one more cat to love. "My cat is Tisha," Mom states firmly. "Tisha was a kitten in 1971, Mom." I watched as she sorts through the mental Rolodex of beloved pets, each name pulling up a different era of her life. "Bumper?" she tries. "No." "Bert?" "No, Bert was our Cocker Spaniel from the 80s. "Oh, right," she brightens, another memory surfacing. "I had Duffy and Mike. Mike chewed bubblegum." This detail emerges crystal clear, specific and certain, while more recent memories remain stubbornly out of reach. "Where is my cat?" She circles back. "We have your cat, Mom." "Tisha?" "No." "Jake!" The name comes with such hope. "No, Mom, we have Angel." Her face goes blank. "I don't know if I remember her." How do you explain that Angel was Dad's last cat they adopted together? That this cat represents the final chapter of his love story with both Mom and his lifetime of pets? That even while he was dying, he was thinking of who would keep Mom company after he was gone? Cairo rubs against Mom's leg, pulling her attention back to the present moment. Sometimes I think the cats understand more than we do. How to just be here now. How to love without requiring memory. "Dogs and cats and birds," Mom says with a laugh. "And those rabbits. And remember when you thought you were gifting us those kittens?" Her eyes sparkle with the memory. "You and Jennifer came home and announced, 'We got you a present!' Like we didn't know that meant you'd already brought them home and we had no choice in the matter." She chuckles, the story gaining momentum. A brother and sister. What could go wrong? Well, we found out exactly what could go wrong. Nature took its course before we could get them fixed, and suddenly our gift had multiplied. The pet stories flow from her now, some crystal clear, others blending together. "You got dragged down the sidewalk by Bert, face first. What were you thinking wanting to walk him by yourself? You were only 5. Then her expression shifts as another memory surfaces. "And that awful dog incident. Jennifer said he was friendly." She touches her own eyebrow reflexively. "Then you two nearly backed the car down the driveway while I was getting ready to take you to the hospital, as if one emergency wasn't enough." The cats weave through her memories like threads in a tapestry. Bumper from the Ford plant. Your dad always had a soft heart for strays. And poor Tucky. Her voice softens. Dad was never the same about cats after that. It broke his heart having to tell me what had happened. He was going out to run an errand, and my 3-month-old kitty, Tuxedo, was in the shade of the car tires on a hot day. That's why he was always so careful checking under the cars after that, she reminds me. She brightens suddenly. "But the birds, those noisy things. Remember how the cockatiel would wolf whistle every time I walked by? Your father taught it to whistle that Andy of Mayberry song. And those bunnies. One was named Thumper, wasn't it? Or was that the hamster? Our hamster was long before the rabbits. I'm surprised she even remembered it. He was Hammy. Of course, Jen and I had to call him that after the show. And our own silly memory about Hammy threw up, but it was really babies. So Hammy was actually a girl." The memories tumble out, not always in order, not always completely accurate, but the emotions behind them remain true. "We were quite the menagerie, weren't we? A zoo. Was that on Richmond? Or were we on Coldstream then? But those kittens," she circles back, laughing again. "Some gift that turned out to be." "JJ, she was special," Mom says, her face softening with the memory. "She picked your father, you know. Just attached herself to him and..." She pauses, searching for the thread of the story. "Was she the brown one or the orange one?" "The brown tabby, Mom." Yes, she laughs, then grows thoughtful. "She would sit with Dave in his chair every night. Was that JJ? I think it was. She loved him so much." Her hands move in her lap, mimicking a cat kneading. She would march on his leg while he watched TV. Then suddenly, as if the memory of Dad in his chair had triggered something. "I don't have Dave anymore, do I?" "No, Mom." "What happened to him? Lung cancer from smoking?" Her face clouds with familiar anger. "Dumb. I used to smoke. I quit on April 29th, 1989. "What happened to JJ?" she asks, the cat memory surfacing again through the grief. She lived with you and Dad for many years, Mom. Dave loved that cat, she said softly, then, inevitably, I don't have Dave anymore, do I? The loop continues, each memory triggering the next, joy and loss tangled together. Dad and his cats, the smoking, the train station, these pieces of her past that she holds on to even as they slip through her fingers again and again. It's like watching waves hit the shore each time Mum realizes Dad is gone. The grief crashes fresh and new. There's no scar tissue forming over this wound. It's raw every single time. I don't have Dave anymore? The question itself has become a kind of terrible ritual, and I know exactly what comes next. What did he die from? Lung cancer? From smoking? Each revelation builds like a story she's hearing for the first time. Idiot. The anger flashes quick and hot, then without fail. I used to smoke. I quit on April 29th, 1989 at the train station. This date, this specific memory remains anchored while others drift away. Sometimes this sequence plays out 10 or 15 times in a single visit. Each time she experiences the loss, the shock, the anger, the sadness cycling through her eyes like seasons changing and fast forward. It's exhausting to witness knowing I can't build any calluses over her pain. I can't help her develop any emotional scar tissue to protect her from the next wave. Between these cycles of grief, she'll talk about Dad in the present tense. Dave loves that chair, she'll say, or I should call Dave and ask him. Then something will trigger her, a mention of JJ, a comment I make, a random synapse firing, and the question comes again. I don't have Dave anymore, do I? I've learned that each time is the first time for her. Each revelation of loss is as fresh as the original. She's now stuck in an endless loop of her own mourning. There's no moving through it, only moving in circles. Sometimes I wonder if this is a blessing or a curse, to love somebody so completely that losing them feels brand new every time you remember they're gone. I love bananas, Mom announces suddenly, shifting away from grief into a familiar frustration. But Dave won't buy them. Says they're the most expensive thing in the store. She shakes her head, and I watch the decades peel away in her mind. She's no longer in Willow Grove. She's back home, dealing with Dave's notorious frugality. He won't even let me have the keys, she continues, indignation fresh, as if this argument happened this morning rather than years ago. I could just drive myself to the store and get my own bananas. I know how to drive. The banana complaint is like a comfortable old sweater she keeps pulling on. Sometimes it comes right after asking where Dave is, creating a surreal moment where she's simultaneously grieving his loss and annoyed at his penny-pinching ways. It's as if different versions of Dad exist in different compartments of her mind. The one who's gone, and the one who's still preventing her from buying bananas. Mom, I say gently, you can have bananas anytime you want now. She looks at me confused. But Dave says they're too expensive. Dad's gone, Mom, remember? Her face falls. What happened to him? Lung cancer from smoking? And we're back to the familiar cycle. But within minutes, she's back to the bananas. It's safer territory, perhaps. Being annoyed about fruit prices is easier than processing loss. Dad's thriftiness, that Mom only imagines, with produce is a simpler memory to handle than his absence. Reality for Mom is like a TV with multiple channels playing simultaneously. Sometimes she can flip between them seamlessly, and other times they blur together in surprising ways. In one moment, she's annoyed at Dad's banana economics. In the next, she's grieving his loss, and then suddenly she's back to plotting how to get the car keys from him. I could just drive to the store myself, she insists again, then pauses, confusion crossing her face. Do I still drive? No, Mom. Oh, she processes this. But Dave won't let me have bananas. Dad's gone, Mom. What happened to him? Lung cancer? From smoking? The familiar loop begins. Then, without missing a beat, if he'd just give me the keys. It's like watching someone navigate a house where the rooms keep rearranging themselves. She steps through one door expecting to find Dad refusing to buy bananas, only to discover he's gone. Opens another door, and he's back, keeping the car keys out of reach. Each reality is equally valid to her in the moment she's experiencing it. Sometimes she seems to know she's moving between different timelines. I get confused sometimes, she'll admit. in her clearer moments. But then the channels shift again, and she's back to planning her banana buying rebellion against a husband who's both present and absent in her mind. These shifts happen mid-sentence sometimes, like a record skipping tracks. She'll start telling me about Dave's strict grocery budget and end up telling me about his final days and then circle back to complaining about the price of bananas, all without seeming to notice the temporal whiplash she's just experienced. Mom has her own way of describing what's happening to her mind. It's this frontal lobe thing, she'll say, tapping her forehead. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's a startling clarity in these moments, a self-awareness that cuts through the confusion. She understands, at least sometimes, that her brain is betraying her, even if she can't always recognize when it's happening. The frustration when it comes is raw and profound. Sometimes it erupts mid-conversation, when she can't grasp a memory she knows should be there, or when she realizes she's asked about Dad for the 4th time in an hour. "I hate this!" She'll burst out, grabbing her head in her hands and wincing, almost as if she's feeling pain. "I used to know these things. I used to be smart." These moments of awareness are almost harder to witness than the confusion. She struggles to hold on to the thread of a single conversation. "I hate being stupid," she'll say, and no amount of reassurance seems to help. Sometimes the frustration manifests physically. She'll press her fingers against her temples as if trying to hold the memories in place, or shake her head like she's trying to clear it. "It's right there," she'll say. "I can almost see it, but then it goes away." Other times she retreats into herself, embarrassed by her own confusion. "I don't want to talk anymore," she'll announce suddenly, the weight of trying to keep her reality straight becoming too heavy to bear. These are the moments when I see her grieving not just Dad, but pieces of herself. Each lost memory, each moment of confusion, each realization that her mind isn't what it used to be. Yet, even in her frustration, glimpses of her humor surface. "Well, at least I remember I'm forgetting things," she'll joke. Or, "Maybe I'll forget I was angry about forgetting." It's these moments that remind me she's still in there, my mom, fighting to make sense of a world that keeps shifting under her feet. "It's like living in a funhouse," Mom says during one of her lucid moments. "Everything's all twisted around, and I know it's twisted, but I can't make it straight again." This self-awareness comes and goes like weather, sometimes bringing frustration with it. When she's clear about her condition, her vulnerability is breathtaking. "I used to be somebody," she'll say quietly. "I used to help people. Now I can't even remember if I have a cat." These moments require a delicate balance from me, acknowledging her pain without letting her sink into it, validating her feelings while gently redirecting her focus. "You're still somebody, Mom," I tell her. "You're still helping people. You make everyone here smile. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't." "But I used to know things." The frustration bubbles up. "I taught school and helped people. Now I can't even remember." She pauses, the thought slipping away even as she's expressing her frustration about forgetting. The irony would be funny if it weren't so heartbreaking. I've learned to watch for the signs that she's becoming aware of her confusion. A certain furrow in her brow. A particular way she presses her lips together. When I see these, I try to get ahead of the frustration. Sometimes it's as simple as changing the subject. "Look at your nails, Mom." Other times I lean into her remaining strengths. "Tell me about Papa's weather balloons in Big Trout Lake again." The older memories are usually safer territory. Her sense of humor remains one of our best tools. Even in her darkest moments of awareness, she can sometimes find absurdity in her situation. "Well, at least every day is a surprise," she'll quip. This ability to laugh even briefly feels like my mom swimming up through the confusion to remind me she's still there. But perhaps the most poignant moments are when she acknowledges her awareness of Dad's absence and her confusion about it in the same breath. "I keep forgetting Dave is gone, and then I keep remembering. Is it better to forget or remember? I don't know anymore." "Neither do I, Mom. Neither do I." Even the smallest moments now carry crushing significance. Will this be the last car ride? The final time she giggles at her old inside jokes? The last brunch where she remembers how I take my coffee? I took her to the cemetery to see Dad for the first time in a year and a half since his funeral. I realize upon returning, we won't be taking her again. Another last. I catalog everything. The way she says my name with that slight lilt at the end. her big sunshine smile when she realizes I'm beside her. Each gesture feels like something I'm simultaneously experiencing and mourning. Joy and grief twisted so tightly together, they've become a single emotion I have no name for. I've become a collector of lasts, never knowing which precious ordinary moment is the one I should commit to permanent memory, the one I'll need to sustain me through all the years ahead. So let's talk about this. That loop that mom gets stuck in, discovering that dad is gone over and over and over and over. Um, I think it's one of the cruelest aspects of dementia. And people always ask me, like, doesn't she eventually get used to it? Doesn't it hurt less? No. um, because scar tissue requires memory. If you think about when you experience grief normally, your brain creates these neural pathways around that loss. You process it, right? You kind of integrate it, you build emotional calluses, but each time you remember the loss, those pathways get stronger. And while it never, stops hurting entirely, the acute shock of it fades. But mom can't build those pathways. Her short-term memory can't transfer the information to long-term storage. So, every single time she asks about dad, and I confirm that he's gone, she is experiencing the initial shock of the loss again and again and again. And there's no getting used to it because there's no memory of having dealt with it before. I guess it's kind of like an emotional Groundhog Day, right? She's trapped in the worst moment over and over, and there's nothing I can do to help her escape it. No amount of explaining changes it. The loop just starts again and again. It's really shitty, but, Anyway, one of the most misunderstood aspects of dementia is that people assume that once someone has it, they don't know that something's wrong. And that's not true, especially in the earlier stages. As I kind of alluded to, or I just directly said in the chapter, mom has what researchers call fluctuating insight. So some days she has no idea anything's off. And other days she is painfully aware that her brain is failing her. I used to be somebody, I used to know things. That self-awareness is kind of its own form of torture, in my opinion. She can feel her mind slipping, but she can't stop it. Can you even imagine knowing that you're losing yourself, but being completely powerless to prevent it? So that's what those moments of clarity bring to her. And what makes it even more complicated, her awareness of her dementia can itself be affected by the dementia. Because let's just add a fun little twist into it, right? So she might forget that she has memory problems or remember that something's wrong, but not understand what. Sometimes she'll say it's this frontal lobe thing with surprising accuracy, but other times she has absolutely no clue why she's confused at all. Research also shows that self-awareness tends to decline as dementia progresses, which some consider a mercy. But right now, mom exists in this kind of awful middle ground where she knows enough to be frustrated and frightened, but not enough to fully understand or cope with what's happening to her. So anyway, on to some questions from listeners. First one comes from Karen. Karen says, in Little Things, you wrote about your dad's love being the heart of the family. Now that he's gone, how has the family dynamic changed and who holds that center now? Karen, that's a painful question because the honest answer is no one holds it the way that dad did. He was the best at everything. He kind of kept us all connected. Mom loved family and being together and wanting that time, but it was dad who kind of always made it happen. With him gone and mom in long-term care now, our family operates differently. So my sister and I guess, have kind of become the center holders, right? Our families are small to begin with. She has a larger extended family than I do. But, nothing's the same. We're trying to preserve what mom and dad built while also accepting that the family structure has kind of fundamentally changed. In an upcoming chapter, I'm going to share more about traditions that I've held and will actually be letting go of because I have to. My son, Crew, he's kind of growing up with a very different experience of family than I had. He knew his grandpa, but not for long enough. And the Nana he knows now isn't the one I grew up with. So that loss kind of ripples through generations. Thanks for your question, Karen. Next one is from Stephen. Sorry. Stephen says, you mentioned in the before chapter that your mom worked 7 days a week at the church. Do you think the busyness actually masked symptoms longer than if she had a quieter life? Absolutely, I do. I think the structure of her church work, the routines, the familiar people, all those like roles, little and big, that she performed all those years, all of that scaffolding held her up longer than we realized, right? So when she retired and she moved away from the community, that scaffolding disappeared, The cognitive demands were different. She was in a new town with a new church and no established routines and no friends, and that's when we couldn't really ignore the decline anymore. For the first 6 or 9 months, I was driving out there weekly just to, have coffee with them, go for lunch, whatever, just to kind of give them some little bit of like their past life and that normalcy. But, I couldn't do it forever. And things just really started to change. I do think that this is common with people who have dementia. People, can compensate really well in familiar environments with those established patterns. But if you take them out of that context and the deficits, they start to just become more obvious. Mom's job wasn't necessarily masking the symptoms so much as it was, providing a support system that helped her function despite them, if that makes sense. Next question is from Deborah about our last episode, Through the Fog. She says, you talked about sundowning. Does your mom experience that and how do you handle it? Yes, mom does experience sundowning. Late afternoons and early evenings are noticeably harder for her as well as other people. She gets more confused, a little more agitated, emotionally fragile. We've adapted by timing our visits earlier in the day when possible. Morning visits are usually our best bet. She's a lot more herself, less anxious, better able to track conversations. Sometimes not so much. Some mornings she just wakes up and it's awful from start of the day to the end. Willow Grove, tries to structure activities and meal times to work with sundowning patterns as well. They keep routines consistent. They ensure good lighting and minimizing stimulation in the evenings. And I know that all of that helps. Some days, though, no matter what we do, like I said, her day begins and ends with sundowning. So, we can't do anything about it. We just kind of have to sit with it. And finally, I have a comment from Nancy who shared something with me that I had to dig a little into. She said about her situation, the oddest thing about my ordeal is that my mom and I didn't have a good relationship for most of my life. She loved her sons. Anyway, those last 5 months, I saw her 5 days a week because I was the only one who didn't work. She always knew who I was, but didn't know my siblings. Life and death certainly offers funny twists. That line, life and death offer funny twists, really stuck with me. I actually talked last night with Dr. Nate, and he explained that this isn't unusual. As dementia kind of progresses, the brain starts recognizing people less by memory and more by familiarity and emotion. So it's not necessarily about who the person has known the longest. It's more about who feels safe and steady and kind of present in their world right now. So in this case, Nancy was there almost every day. So that routine and that sense of calm and consistency probably became what her mom's brain latched onto. Dr. Nate said that the brain loses the timeline, but it remembers the feelings. And I touch on that a lot as well. It remembers the feelings, the comforts, the voice, the emotional connection. Sometimes that means the old relationships get rewritten in ways that surprise us or even heal us a little as life circles back to a different kind of closeness. Love it. Anyway, that's it. If you have questions or comments about anything from previous episodes, you can send them to unboundwithbethcurry@gmail.com or post in the Facebook group. And if you want to support the show, ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. All the info will be in the show notes. Thanks so much for being here with me. I really appreciate you all, and I will see you in the next episode. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit authorbethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.